Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Week 17 Tuesday night live stream for the 2024 fantasy football season. First and foremost, happy holidays to everyone. I hope you guys have a wonderful time in the next coming days here. But for many of us, we are still focused on, of course, trying to capture a 2024 fantasy football championship. And in doing so, we need to prepare for our waiver wires that are running later tonight, and of course, prepare for tomorrow morning's game. Of course, taking on the Chiefs, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then later in the afternoon, we have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Texans. Again, 2 Wednesday games for Week 17 seem pretty egregious, but then we have 3 Saturday games, 1 Thursday game, and a bunch of Sunday games, and of course the final game of Week 17, a Monday Night Football game between the Lions and 49ers. It's going to be a hectic week, but either way, I'm here to help as much as I possibly can in regards to potentially predicting the future of the most unpredictable season that we've seen in quite a while. Either way, if you guys have a question, whether it is via super chat and or the live chat, regardless of which way you send in said question, make sure you include your scoring format, whether it is a half, full, PPR, standard, doesn't matter. Whatever context you can provide in this situation, we're good to go. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's begin with the first question of the day that comes in from Cinco2X, who says the following. Andrew, top 10 quarterbacks and defenses this week, brother. You're coming in with some absolute heat here, okay? Let's see here. I need help on my waiver wire for tonight. Also, do you think Winston would play against the Dolphins this week? No, I don't think Winston's going to play. If DTR doesn't play, it'll be Bailey Zappi. So regardless of what we're doing, we are trying to pick up the Miami Dolphins defense, as I have them currently ranked as my number 1 defense on the week. So again, the current reason, I understand that Winston was on the injury report last week. Primarily, they're benching him in order to make sure they can get as high of a draft pick as possible. They are intentionally tanking, which many of teams are trying to accomplish over the course of the next coming weeks here. But either way, in regards to top 10 quarterbacks, for example, because defenses, as of right now, I'd probably go like Miami, Indianapolis, Eagles, Chargers, Bills, Seahawks. Something of that exchange, like those would be the top teams. As for quarterback, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, you're always going to start your Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. If Jalen Hurts is active, you play him, Joe Burrow. Then it goes into like the second tier of quarterbacks where we have like Darnold, Goff, Mayfield. Potentially could be in the mix like a Herbert, Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray. Those are kind of like the top 10 guys typically, so we'd probably still lean in that direction. Again, we are in Week 17. We're not trying to get cute with their overall situation, still starting our studs in these circumstances. Hopefully that gives you the answer. I can be a little bit more detail-oriented regarding those 2 specific positions tomorrow morning after I've done the full research of and kind of expansive kind of rankings adjustments that I'll make over the course of tonight going into tomorrow morning's live stream. Again, do not forget that tomorrow morning I will be live here on the channel starting at 8 a.m. I'm sure many of you will be busy tomorrow morning, but if you aren't and you have any questions regarding Week 17 lineups, I'll be here prior to the 10 a.m. game PST. So for 2 hours, 8 to 10 a.m., I'll be live here on the channel. Thank you. Zeke Rodriguez sends in a question. It says, full PPR in the championship, Hurts owner, and I'm hurting. Okay, very well. It says, who should I pick up? Young, Herbert, Richardson, Williams, or May? I mean, of the bunch, if I was in your position, I'd prefer to play Justin Herbert, then Anthony Richardson second. Third, I'd probably go with someone like Caleb Williams. Fourth, at that point, would be Bryce Young. Fifth would be Drake May. That's the order which I'm leaning in right now. So Herbert would be the priority, number 1. Richardson second, if the team that you're playing against has a higher priority and takes Herbert away from you potentially this week. Thank you, Zeke. As your follow-up question, Zeke says full PPR. Top 5 defenses for this week. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's probably going to be like Miami, Indianapolis, Eagles, Chargers, Bills, Seahawks. Those are like the top 6 that I would go with. A lot of those available options potentially available on your waiver wire, considering many of teams may have not been potentially rostering Miami and or Seattle and or I think those 2 would be the primaries that potentially are available this week. Thank you. All right, let's scroll down here. We had a couple questions sent in from Hernan Ramos, who says, all right, the question is, I have Bijan, Connor, and Garendo. I need 2 running backs. Should I hit the waiver wire for Edwards, Dobbins, Spears, or Madison? I mean, if I was in your position, the answer is absolutely yes. Earlier today, about an hour or 2 ago, there was a report sent out that James Conner is in fact in a situation where he was limited in his participation of practice today. The fact that they gave him the limited participation was quite promising because, again, they do play on Saturday, so it's a little bit of an accelerated time between Sunday's game and his injury that he sustained. So obviously we're getting into a situation where hopefully he could end up being active. If he is, great, fantastic, you'll play Bijan alongside of Connor. But in the event in which he is not, at that point I would try to pick up and play one of the two Los Angeles Chargers running backs. If Edwards is by himself, fantastic, you fire him up. In the event in which Dobbins is active, then that's who you would throw into your lineup. Thank you. Let's see here. Jose Manuel sends in a question. Says Stroud / Connor or Carter / Madison at the Superflex. If I'm playing one of those available options in my Superflex league, I don't know if I'm very comfortable starting Stroud. At the moment, I'd probably wait until Connor, see if he's available. If he's not, then I'd pivot to playing Madison at that point. Thank you. Blue Jay sends in a question. I was 7-7 and I snuck into the championship. I have no Hurts, Bryce Young, or May. LOL. Defense, should I claim Seahawks, Raiders, or Titans? Between those three, I'd prefer to pick up the Seahawks defense for Thursday's matchup. Says also Kraft or Chikezimo Okonkwo, and choose 2 out of 3 of the wide receivers: Debo, Kupp, McMillan in a full PPR. Okay, so the interesting thing is if you have no Hurts, if it's either Bryce Young or Drake May, I prefer to play Bryce Young as of this week, considering they take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As for the defensive matchup, yeah, I'll take the Seahawks. As for Kraft or Chikezimo Okonkwo, I'll take Okonkwo there. And last but not least, between those wide receivers that are available, it becomes very tricky because I want to play Debo, but he is so touchdown dependent. As of late, it'd probably be in your best interest to probably run like a Debo McMillan combo. I don't mind that as of right now, to be honest, Blue Jay. Thank you. D-Real sends in a question. Says Strange or Ferguson? Between the two of them, look, here's the thing. When someone like Brenton Strange burns me after a great week of target opportunity and then next week he completely disappears, it does provide a little bit of like a fear in my mind that, okay, can I actually trust him, or was this a 1 week wonder? Now, I know that the offense is predicated on getting the tight end the ball, but even in that scenario, it still is sketchy. For right now, if I had to pick between the two, I'd still go with Strange, as sketchy as it is, because I really don't think that Ferguson's workload is enough, quite frankly. As for your second question, Worthy or Shakir, depends on Josh Allen's status, but as long as Josh Allen's active, I'd probably lean towards Shakir there. Mahomes or Stafford, I'd rather have Mahomes this week, or pick up Anthony Richardson. Between Anthony Richardson and Mahomes, based on the overall passing total, 11 attempts this last week, I'd probably rather play Mahomes at that point. I have James Conner with no backup. Who do I go for? If you are going to pick up a backup for James Conner, it would be Michael Carter as of right now. Thank you. John D sends in a question, says full PPR McMillan or Marvin Harrison. You got to go with McMillan there. Jonnu or Andrews, I'd go with Jonnu Smith. Thank you. Again, Mark Andrews is the thumbnail of today's episode because he plays tomorrow and he's on a 4-game consecutive streak of scoring and receiving touchdowns. So if you're playing in a standard league, that's fine. But a half PPR, full PPR, I'd still lean in the direction of Jonnu Smith. Thank you. Relax, Chill, Sleep says Kupp or London. Between the two, I'd probably still lean towards Kupp in that scenario. Thank you. El Bardo sends in a question, says, can we trust London or start DK Metcalf instead? Is Kyler a good start? I think Kyler's a good start. In the event in which James Conner is inactive, I think it could potentially provide even more upside for Kyler if they have to throw the ball for the entirety of the game. If the running attack is not in a great position, considering both their offensive tackles are out, that may also not help Kyler in terms of his passing upside. So we're going to be in an interesting situation there. I think he's an okay start. He'll probably be in the top 12, but near like 12 than anything. As for the potential of London versus DK Metcalf, I'd probably rather just play DK at that point. Thank you. Josh Holt sends in a question. Thank you, Josh. Says, happy holidays, Andrew. Thank you very much. His question on my quarterback for the finals. Do I play Stroud, Tua, or should I gamble with Waiver, Drake, May, Geno, or Young? Of those available, okay, so very much so well, look, here's the thing. Weather is going to be implicated in multiple games this week. Even though this most recent week, we thought there was going to be rain in Seattle and potential snow in Green Bay, neither of these situations came to fruition. So I'm not even going to speculate regarding weather. I'm just going to tell you to play Geno Smith. Thank you. Auntie Slayer says, Hurts murked me in my sleeper league, but hopefully JD5 and ESPN can win me the chip. I think he'll probably be able to do that. Magic Bell sends in a question, says in a half PPR, start Pickens tomorrow or wait for Kamara. I wouldn't wait for Kamara. Again, the expectation is that considering they're out of playoff contention, Kamara just signed an extension this season. He has no purpose to play. He's nothing to actually like strive for. Sure, he's 50 yards away from a 1,000-yard rushing season, which he hasn't accomplished in his career. But ultimately, those are things that, only fully healthy players can really go after. In this case, I think he's probably preparing for next year and the rebuild for this offense. So I play Pickens tomorrow. Thank you. Wallace sends in a question, says, Henry, Chigozimo, Conquo, or Schultz in a half PPR. Thanks. Between the three available options, I would lean towards Schultz as the priority. Thank you. Sean K says, do we start Mixon or wait on JC? JC is in James Conner. The only question would then be like, what would your alternative option from James Conner be, assuming he doesn't play on Saturday? If he doesn't play on Saturday, if your next best option after that is somebody that is, if it has to be his backup, I'd rather just play Mixon tomorrow. Thank you. All right, let's see. Brandon Green says, I'm riding with Kupp. Must-win game for the Rams. Seems like Stafford is going to rely on old reliable. I mean, listen, fingers crossed from your mouth to the fantasy god's ears, brother. Riz says, George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb, please. Between the two of them, Pickens should be fully healthy. If Lamb is fully healthy, Lamb should outproduce him very easily. He should. Under the assumption, again, that he is fully healthy. But CeeDee Lamb keeps dealing with that shoulder injury. It does become a little bit sketchier in that scenario. I think if you're playing in a full PPR, you kind of have to play Lamb at the moment. Frank Carbone says, Kyler or Anthony Richardson? As of right now, I'd probably still lean towards Anthony Richardson. Let's see here. Watch says, pick 2, McMillan, Pickens, Andrews, Jameson, Williams, full PPR, tight end premium, 1.75. If you get 1.75 per reception, assuming Mark Andrews, let's say he gets 4 receptions there, what is that in terms of points? It's nearly like 9 fantasy points just off of receptions. What was that? Like, not even 9, but like, let's say it's almost 8 in a half PPR scoring format or in a full PPR. That is an interesting prospect. I mean, as of right now, of those available, I'd probably go like Andrews and Pickens. That's the way that I'm leaning towards it. Assuming, Mark Andrews with touchdowns in the last 4 games, he's probably been a 15-point player in a tight end premium format for a while here. Let's see here. Cap says, start Bryce Young or Russell Wilson. Between the two of them, that makes it an interesting prospect. Considering George Pickens' return, would I rather have Russell Wilson? Probably yes. Rel says, pick 2 in a full PPR, London, J-Mo, Pollard, Downs, or Jonnu. Under the assumption that everyone's healthy in this scenario, it probably ends up being Jonnu Smith and Pollard. Sean K says, it would be Jennings or Kupp, both whom scare me. Yeah, I don't like either of the two either, but I'd go with Kupp there. Alan says, just curious, what kind of camera do you use? Is it out of focus? No, it's not out of focus, just making sure. What kind of camera do I use? Sony A7 III. Thank you. I think that's what it is, right? Let me see here. One moment. I'll tell you in a quick second. I can find my Amazon. Yeah, Sony A7 III. It's kind of an older camera. I bought it back in 2022. So I've had it for a little while. But yeah, it's fantastic. It says, it's not cheap, but it gets the job done for sure. Let's see here. Chubbs McGee says, in the finals, but the underdog in a PPR Superflex 4-point per passing touchdown league, flex Bucky Irving over Tua this week. Yes, I would. I went 2 of the last 2 weeks. Bucky Irving scoring higher. Yeah, this week you got to have to just play Bucky. We're no longer in question as to whether or not he is healthy. It's just the fact of the matter that he is. Also, Neighbors or Debo. Neighbors versus the Colts or Debo. I kind of want to trust Debo. That's where my heart goes because I know what kind of an incredible player he is. But yeah, I'd probably, based on where my heart is leaning towards, it'll probably be Debo. Now, as to whether my projection spits that out by the end of tonight's overall adjustments, we'll see. Ant Reed sends in a question, says, behind Gibbs, my running back situation is rough with Tracy, didn't practice, Tank, Stevenson, and Dowdle. Am I crazy to go matchup and just dart throw tank. I don't think it's crazy to go that way. I have no issue with that at all. Again, I have him ranked relatively high in terms of top 24 potential. He certainly can surpass that if, in fact, the game script goes in their favor. And, of course, if it, in fact, is in their favor, we would see more rushing attempts in his direction rather than Travis Etienne. So I don't think that's a bad idea, assuming Tracy doesn't play, of course. Thank you. Peter says, Chigoziem Okonkwo has been popping off. Laporta or Chigoziem? I mean, hasn't Laporta been popping off? I mean, I think the same argument can theoretically be made. I'd lean towards Laporta at the moment. Albardo sends in a question, says Spears/Pollard. Who sits BTJ, Lamb, Terry McLaurin, or Nico Collins? Okay, so I'm confused as to the question, Albardo, as to what you have in specific here. If I have to sit one of those wide receivers this week, I'm sitting Lamb. That's how I'd go about it. Everybody else plays, Lamb sits because of the injury potential. Thank you. Dennis Rincon sends in a question, says in a full PPR championship week, quarterback is Darnold/Purdy. Okay, I'll take Darnold there. Flex is Samuel, Devontae Smith, Downs, McMillan, Abdullah. And okay, so of those available options, probably needing either Debo or McMillan. And then, of course, if Jalen Hurts is active, I'd go with Devontae Smith over all of them. As for the next question, it says Kraft, Strange, Okonkwo. Between those three, I'll take Okonkwo off of the waivers. And then it says defense, Minnesota, Los Angeles Chargers, or Miami. I'd lean towards Miami there. Thank you. Beaver sends in a question. Says, I made the championship again. Thanks for all the advice, Andrew. Who would you start at tight end? Ertz, Okonkwo, Schultz, Strange. As of right now, the order at which I would approach it, depending on scoring format. If we're talking about like a half PPR, I'm going Schultz, Okonkwo, Ertz, Strange. If we're talking about a full PPR, at that point, I go Okonkwo 1, Schultz 2, Ertz 3, Strange 4. Thank you. Also, what are my top 5 defenses for the week? I mentioned it earlier. 1 would be Miami. Number 2 would be Indianapolis Colts. Number 3 is Philadelphia Eagles. Number 4 is the Chargers. Number 5 is the Bills. Number 6 is the Seahawks. Thank you. Choose McGee says, appreciate everything that this season so far. No problem. Glad to hear that I'm helping in any sort of way. Astro says, Zay Flowers or McMillan? Do I want to play Zay Flowers tomorrow? I'd probably play McMillan, to be honest. I think it's risky, but I think I'd rather go that way. All right, let's see here. Alan in the chat says, Keon Coleman or Bateman? I'd rather have Bateman. At least he scores touchdowns, right? Keon Coleman gets just like 1 reception per game. It's just tough in that scenario. Dale says Sutton or Thielen in a PPR. As it currently stands, I'd lean towards Thielen there. Thank you. Andrew in the chat says, Merry Christmas, bro. My question is in the chat. Thanks. Okay, let me see if I can find it. It says in a half PPR, my lineup is Mayfield, Collins, BTJ, Achane, Hubbard, McBride, St. Brown, Boswell. Okay. Packers defense. Bench consists of Dowdle, Shakir, Love, Mixon, Bo Nix, Addison. Question is, do I swap any of my starters? I mean, look, as it currently stands, Mayfield is correct. BTJ, Collins is correct. Achane, Hubbard is correct. You have McBride, you have St. Brown, you have Boswell. So do you not have a flex play? That's my only question. If you can't flex anybody, then you're good. But if you do have a singular kind of roster spot available for flex, then I would assume Mixon goes there. Thank you. We had a question. Let's see here. Albardo says, who should start between Spears and Pollard? If Pollard is healthy and active, I would play him. But if you wanted to, if, for example, you thought that the game was going to be a negative game script, or if Pollard doesn't play the entire week, if he doesn't practice the entire week once again, then you can just comfortably play Spears there. Again, it's very much so dependent on how we're trending towards the game based on his injury report, and additionally, how we anticipate that game to kind of pan out in terms of scores. Clint says, tougher time picking which kicker and defense to start than quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end. Yeah, it seems like that has been the case because, oftentimes the thing is about defenses, there aren't very many statistics that we can utilize to our advantage in order to determine which to play. Obviously, we're often trying to go after offenses that aren't going to score in general. So if you can keep those 10 points on a per weekly average, the 10 points that you get base when the game starts, if you can keep those, anything you get on top of it is fantastic. So we're always typically trying to go after teams that aren't going to score as many points. But if we can also target quarterbacks that are turnover prone, that's always an advantage. Somebody asked Charbonnet or Ford. Edison, I would suggest you play Charbonnet. Earlier today, Kenneth Walker did not practice. They play on Thursday night. So the expectation is that considering the sustained injury, Charbonnet would be the only running back in the rotation. Charbonnet also practiced at a full capacity today against Chicago. It's a fantastic play. All right, let's scroll down here. We had Nick who sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, Ford versus Debo in the flex. Yeah, I know Ford has played relatively well in terms of fantasy point production in the last 2 weeks. I don't trust the matchup. Again, when you bust out a 66-yard run it certainly helps in the favor. When you score touchdowns, it certainly helps. If those disappear, we are in absolute trouble with that kind of a player. So as of right now, I'm not going to be high on Cleveland Browns, whether it's receivers or running backs. If you're looking for me to suggest a Cleveland Brown, you've come to the wrong stream, because as of right now, I'd rather just play Debo there. As for your next question, it says Lamar. All right, it's not even a question. It's more of a status of your team, Nick. It says Lamar, Chase, JJ, Bucky, Chuba, and Njoku rounds out my team in my matchup. I mean, you got a really solid team. Let's just put it that way. You have a really, really strong team. Chase and JJ as a combo was pretty crazy, though, Nick. I don't know how you managed to get that. Caveman Clan says, happy holidays. Must win Knicks, Kyler, or Anthony Richardson in a 6-point per passing touchdown league. If it's 6-point per passing touchdown, I'll just take Bo Nix there. Thank you. Nasty 8 says Josh Downs or Bateman in the flex. As of right now, how do we want to go about that? I don't know. That one's tricky. I think right now I'm leaning towards playing Josh Downs. But I don't know if I can trust it objectively, because if they don't throw the ball, if they're going to be up 30 points and they're not throwing the ball at all, it seems like Bateman probably has a higher likelihood of scoring. So I'm probably going to lean in the direction of Bateman there. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had But Why Though, who says second year playing fantasy football. Last year won 4 matches total in the championship this year. Thanks for all the help. In my 2 quarterback league and 4 wide receivers in a full PPR, who do I play between Purdy, Tua, Stafford? Okay, between those available quarterbacks, I'd lean towards playing. Okay, depends on how we want to go about this, because Tua seems like an intriguing play, but ultimately, yeah, I'll probably just play Purdy and Stafford. As for wide receivers, I think that's a little bit of an easier approach, considering the separation of their values is pretty significant. Of the available wide receivers, you have BTJ, McLaurin, Tyreek have to play. Between McMillan and Sutton, obviously McMillan has kind of been a touchdown machine as of late. And considering the matchup against Carolina, I actually don't mind it at all. So I don't mind going with those 4 there at wide receiver. As for Miami or Eagles defense, I have Miami as my number 1 defense of the week. Eagles would be my number 3 overall. Thank you. Somebody asked Mooney or McMillan. I'll still lean towards McMillan there. Let's see here. Scrolling down, we had a question from Derek Just. Thank you, Derek. It says full PPR flex, Spears, Reed, or Downs. Thank you. Of those available, I'd lean towards Spears. Thank you. Doppio says, Merry Christmas, Andrew. Questions in the chat. Thank you very much, sir. Let's see what you have here. Says, I have Aubrey and the Eagles defense, and they go against each other. Pick up McLaughlin, Reichard, and keep the Eagles, or pick up the Colts and keep Aubrey. If you had to make a swap, I'd pick up the Colts and I'd keep Aubrey. Thank you. Michael Barton sends in a question. Says, Ford, McMillan, and Pollard pick 2 in a full PPR. Under the assumption that Pollard has any sort of full practice over the course of this week, and going into the game is going to be expected to play, I would play Pollard alongside of McMillan there. And it says, I need a tight end. Is the tight end for the Giants a good one to pick up? Yes, it would be. Chigoziem Okonkwo is a great pickup. On the waivers, instead of Kraft, Gesicki, Gray, and Otten. Yes, I would prefer to play Okonkwo over all those alternative options you mentioned there, Nick Barton. Thank you. Pavon says, hey man, assuming Walker is out, do I play Charbonnet or Cup? You would play Charbonnet. Thank you. Kevin Stone says, Pollard or Spears? As of right now, again, under the assumption that Pollard is active and gets any sort of full practice over the course of this week, I'd prefer to play Pollard. In the event in which, again, let's say for another consecutive week, he goes the entire week without practicing, regardless of whether he's active, I'd rather play Spears over him. It's purely just dependent on his practice status and how legitimately injured he is in the matter. Because I don't expect this game to be an effort in which the Titans go out there and they're down 30 points like they were against the Colts. So if they're not going to be down 30 points, we may see less Spears implementation within the offense, because they're not in a negative game script having to throw for the entirety of the second half. You know what I mean? Thank you. D-Real sends in a question, says, Tucker or Aubrey? I'd much rather have Aubrey. It's not even close. And should I start the Chiefs defense? I don't mind the Chiefs defense. I currently, when I was messing around with it prior to the stream, I have them still in my top 10, but they're kind of close to 9 or 10. I've yet to kind of like finalize said ranking, so they could potentially adjust, but I think that's a pretty good safe play if the available options, such as, like I mentioned earlier, Miami, Indianapolis, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Buffalo, Seattle. If those defenses aren't available, then Kansas City is a pretty good primary, pick up and play for tomorrow's games. Thank you. Lee Flores sends in a question, says, half PPR Flowers or Dowdle in the flex? Considering, I would honestly play Zay Flowers there. That's where I would go with. If I'm going to get 8 to 12 points and then have the potential upside of maybe 15 in the case in a half PPR that he scores a touchdown, I think that's a pretty safe go about it in comparison to Dowdle, who again has a really difficult matchup within the given week and always has, the potential of Zeke Elliott kind of yoinking. As for your next question, Richardson or Herbert? As of right now, I'd lean towards Herbert. Thank you. Magic Bell sends in a question. Says, sit one, McBride versus Los Angeles, Keenan Allen versus Seattle, Kittle versus Detroit, Dowdle versus Philadelphia, or Devontae Smith versus Dallas. As of right now, I'd sit Dowdle out of the group. As for your next question, it says, if Jalen is hurt, okay, yep, got it. Rudolph, Mac Jones, Rattler, Pickett, if healthy. Yeah, so in the event, let's say, for example, Jalen Hurts doesn't play this week, if you had to pick one of those 4 quarterbacks to play, I would suggest you pick up and play Mason Rudolph there. I know it sounds crazy for a championship game, but the guy has just been undeniable in terms of his fantasy relevancy this season. Thank you. Carlos M says, I made it to the chip by 0.98 points. Congratulations, Carlos. That's ridiculous. Kevin Stone says, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you guys as well. Thank you. Joseph Birdie says, in a full PPR, Debo versus Detroit or Jonnu Smith versus Cleveland. As of right now, I'd probably lean towards, I want to say Debo, man. Look, here's the thing. I always want to play Debo. I know what his capabilities are. But this season just hasn't been a Debo year. If Jalen Waddle's out for another consecutive week, I will tell you to play Debo. Sorry, no, scratch that. If he's out for another consecutive week, I'll tell you to play Jonnu. If he's back, I'll tell you to play Debo. Thank you. Michael Barton sends in a question, says, Allen is my quarterback. If he can't play or is limited, well, that's not really a limited nature to Allen. If he's playing, he's going to be Josh Allen, and I wouldn't worry about it. But anyway, says, would you pick up Drake May? Look, if he's absent and that's your best available pickup and play, I have no issue playing Drake May within the given week. Thank you. Lutz or Sanders? I'd rather have Jason Sanders. Okay, let's see here. Dragon the Beast sends in a question, says, full PPR, pick 2 wide receivers. Jalen McMillan, Jawan Jennings, Jacoby Myers, Zay Flowers, Darnell Mooney. As of right now, McMillan and Flowers probably the 1-2 combo there. Thank you. Frauden says, what's up, bro? Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. How's it going? Lanny says, I have Mahomes and Worthy in finals. Okay. Hollywood on the bench. Should I switch anything up for this week? Richardson, Young, May, Rudolph? No, keep Mahomes in there. You're good to go there, Lanny. Thank you. Carlos M says, Chigozimo Okonkwo or Fryer Muth? I'd rather have Chigozimo Okonkwo. Thank you. Unless Muth scores a touchdown, there's no way that he could outscore Chig. Let's see here. Lee Flores says, should I pick up McMillan for Zay Flowers? For Zay Flowers? That's tough, man. McMillan has just been a touchdown fiend. That is the difference. Can Zay Flowers get into that realm? Sure, because Zay Flowers, in terms of receptions and yardage alone, is a more valuable prospect. The potential of a touchdown obviously is a little bit more in the favor of McMillan, considering Bateman and Mark Andrews are typically the receiving threats within the red zone or the deep receiving game. So I could justify playing McMillan there, but probably going into tomorrow's live stream, I probably have Zay Flowers ranked higher. Andrew Kate says, full PPR, Kelsey, Freiermuth, or Schultz. There's no reality in which I don't play Kelsey there. I think I just have to. If you have him on roster, I have a hard time sitting him unless you have like a Kittle, Bowers, McBride, Jonnu on roster. Josh says, I made it to the championship by 2 points. 1 seed advantage. There you go. Says, I've got Love and Richardson full PPR. Who would you go with? I'd like to assume that the game against the Minnesota Vikings could very likely be a shootout. But even in that scenario, a lot of the potential touchdowns that will go in the favor of the Green Bay Packers will likely be rushing touchdowns. So I'd probably just go with Richardson there and just hope for the best in that scenario, in that potential blowout in their favor, rather than a shootout. Rosa says, I need an RB2 between Brian Robinson Jr., Rashad White, Tyjae Spears in the flex. Depends on scoring format. If we're like in a full PPR, I'd be okay going with Tyjae Spears there. If it's a half PPR, it's probably Brian Robinson just to play it safe. As for your flex question, says Thielen, London, or Jameson Williams. Thielen would be the suggestion. Tight end, Strange, Kincaid, or Okonkwo. You just play Okonkwo there. Charlene says, happy birthday and Merry Christmas. Thank you, man. Steven says, Anthony Richardson or Kyler Murray in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. I'd lean towards Anthony Richardson there. Barry Volk says, Mixon, Garendo, or Brian Robinson. I'd lean towards Mixon. Thank you. Earlier today, guys, if you guys aren't aware, I did post my top 36 running back rankings. Again, if you guys just want a quick glance at it, I'm more than happy to just kind of travel on over really quickly to show it. So as it currently stands, this is how it is comprised. These are my top 36 running backs. Again, It is a very quick week because there are 2 games taking place tomorrow, one on Thursday. Tomorrow we will have a live stream. I'll answer any and all questions available, potentially possible for us. But going into Thursday, I'll have a wide receiver rankings video posted on Thursday, a quarterback tight end rankings video posted on Friday, so that we can prepare for those upcoming days. But again, tomorrow, because it is Christmas Day, I'll just be conducting the live stream, and that'll pretty much be it in regards to tomorrow's schedule. But otherwise, these are the running back rankings for that week. If you have any questions or potentially want any further indication as to why you should play them, check out the videos posted earlier today. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Scrolling down, we had Carlos M send in a question. Carlos says, Chigozimo Okonkwo or Freiermuth. Yeah, we took care of that. Played Chigozimo Okonkwo. Thank you. Solomon Reyes sends in a question. Says, start one wide receiver. We have Coker, McMillan, Mooney. I play McMillan there. Says, also, I have Njoku, Hunter Henry, and Okonkwo. Waiting for waiver wire for a Chigozimo. Okay. Which tight end do I play? I'd say, okay, so Njoku could still be the more valuable prospect as it currently stands. But if he's going to still have DTR, and additionally, on top of that, have the issue that revolves. Honestly, if I was in your position, I just play Chigozimo Okonkwo. I wouldn't even try to risk his hamstring or anything. I just play Chigozimo Okonkwo there this week. I haven't heard anything about Njoku either. So if he gets a full recommendation of practices over the course of this week, and that's the indication, then we could go back in his direction. But for right now, I'd think that Okonkwo might be the better play. Anonymous says, should I play the Raiders defense over the Chiefs with Pickens back? Yes, I would prefer to play the Raiders defense there. Lee Flores says Okonkwo over Zay Flowers. Probably not. Unless you're playing in a full PPR, that's the only time that I may consider going about that. Let's see here. Joey in the chat says full PPR, Spears or Thielen. I prefer Thielen there. If Pollard doesn't practice. If Pollard doesn't practice, you have to play Spears, regardless of who it's up against. Like, if it was Spears and, like, Charbonnet at that point, I may even consider Spears if, Pollard doesn't practice this week, considering his, recent production and touchdown upside. Nix or Richardson, I just play Nix there for right now. The Chosen One says, I have Zayn at wide receiver 2, but if James Conner is a no-go, or even if he is good, should I start Conner or Pickens in the flex half PPR? Thank you. I would say, considering the unknown status and considering Pickens plays tomorrow while Conner plays on Saturday, I think it's probably in your best interest to roll with Pickens, because again, if you're in a situation where you get to Saturday and they're like, you know what, Conner's not going to play, your alternative option is picking up Conner's backup, which ultimately is just not going to live up to his potential upside. Nick AM says, in a full PPR, do I play Nix or wait until I see Jalen Hurts playing? Well, Nix doesn't play until Saturday, so you'll have a lot of time between now and Saturday to figure out whether or not Jalen Hurts is going to play. We will have a practice kind of designation Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. By the time we get to Friday and prior to the Bo Nix game, we will have a pretty clear indication as to whether or not Jalen Hurts will be active and would have cleared the concussion protocol by Saturday afternoon. So again, the decision will probably be made for you. You'll probably have that information available, prior to having to pick. Thank you. Patrick says Hawkinson, Ferguson, Okonkwo. Just take Okonkwo there. Let's hear Josh. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Florida Man says Tua versus the Browns or Rudolph versus Jacksonville. I could justify playing Rudolph there, but I probably won't. Depends on weather, though. If the Browns game is going to be an ugly rain game, I might just avoid Tua in that scenario. Ebbs and Flow says Merry Christmas, Andrew. Anytime touchdown, Devontae Adams. Okay, I'll look into that. Thank you, Ebbs and Flows. Justin Hernandez says, would you start Pat Mahomes or Bo Nix? Between the two, I'd probably go Pat Mahomes. But it'll probably be relatively close in tomorrow's rankings. All right, let's see here. Let me scroll down a little bit. Bums sends in a question, says Bryce Young or Caleb Williams in my championship. I'd probably lean towards playing Caleb Williams there. Thank you. D-Real says stick with Strange or go get Ertz from the waivers. I'd go get Ertz off the waivers. Firestone Production says I lost my past week by 171 to 172. Dude, that is rough. 171 is a crazy number, by the way. That is a lot of points. Says thanks for all the help this season. You helped me get into the playoffs in 3 of my 4 leagues. Well, I'm glad I was able to help in any way, Firestone. That is a brutal way to lose by less than 1 point, man. Sorry to hear that. Matt Have says Chiefs defense or wait for the Raiders defense if Kamara/Carr play. If Carr plays, yes, the Raiders defense would objectively be a lesser option. So in that case, but look, that's the thing. I don't even expect Carr to play, but otherwise it's the Jaguars. I don't mind waiting, Matt Half. If you don't want to take the risk, then you just play the Chiefs. Again, all 3 of those are going to be in my top 12 defenses this week. Chiefs, Raiders, and Jags. But as it currently stands, yeah, if you probably not even the Jags. I'd probably say that the Titans defense will be higher ranked. But anyway, if you don't want to take the risk, just play the Chiefs tomorrow. Ibrahim sends in a question, says, bench one, AJ Brown, Juwan Jennings, Cup. I'd probably bench Juwan Jennings there. Thank you. Keaton sends in a question, says, half PPR, Schultz or Freiermuth? I'd rather have Schultz. Also have Nico. Yep, that's fine. We'll fire them both up. B. Sarah sends in a question, says, who do I sit out of these four? I have Mixon, McBride, Bowers, Sutton in a full PPR. Okay, so I'm not even joking. I legitimately think there's an argument to be made that Mixon is the sit here. There's an argument to be made. Now, can I physically get myself to conduct that? You know what? I may be able to. I don't know. As of right now, my current suggestion would probably be like Mixon, Bowers, and Sutton that play, and McBride's the odd man out, but I could justify sitting Mixon in this scenario. Keaton sends in a question, says half PPR, Schultz or Freiermuth? I'd rather have Schultz. Thank you. Okay, we already answered that, Keaton. Thank you. Lee Flores says, is there any news about Walker? Yeah, he didn't practice today. That is the most glaring news as it currently stands regarding his status. Patrick says, thanks, bro. Dolphins or Colts? I currently have Dolphins as my number one defense on the week. Colts my number two. Really, it's just a toss-up as to who's going to be able to kind of score that defensive touchdown or cause a couple additional turnovers there. 513 Rookie says, Santa Kirchhoff, Daniels, 70% rain or Goff. Enjoy the holiday. To be honest, I don't care about the rain. Doesn't make a difference to me. I'm still firing up Daniels. Thank you. Justin Hernandez says, thanks, King. In a back-to-back championship game because of you. No problem. Glad to help. Blue Jay says, Andrew, just curious why Seahawks over the Titans defense. Feels like it can be on of those defensive divisional games. Okay, so this is the primary reason why I prefer the Seahawks defense. From what so again, this is very much so speculatory. From what I've seen, that game on Thursday is supposed to be rain. Now, again, if I get to prior to kickoff and I don't see any rain, I'm swapping. But again, if it's going to be a messy game where it's heavy run, very little pass because of the weather implication, that is why I'm leaning towards that Seahawks defense. Thank you. And I know that the offensive tackles for the Bears are going to be out, so that definitely helps. Anonymous says, Raiders defense have more upside, which I need, but I don't know, just feeling about the Chiefs defense, even against the Steelers. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't mind that idea. Sebastian Chavez says, what defense should I start? Broncos, Miami, or Colts? I prefer Miami number one, Colts number two, Broncos three. That's the order. Vicus says, in a full PPR, Zay Flowers, Juwan Jennings, Breece Hall, or Rashad White. Of those available, I'd probably lean towards Hall. Bam Bam says, somehow made the finals on my first time. Okay, congratulations. Says full PPR, quarterback Nix or Darnold. I'd prefer to play Darnold there. Running back Stevenson or Abdullah. I'd lean towards Stevenson. And McMillan or Mooney. I'd prefer to play McMillan. Thank you. Rick says, start Miami's defense or New Orleans. Yeah, you cannot play New Orleans. I think Miami's just a better play of the two. Tony Lopez says, Andrew, are you the real Santa Claus? Perhaps, maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Instead of going out and instead of finishing rankings tonight, technically I might be the fantasy Santa. Later tonight, while everyone's asleep, I'll be working on delivering presents. What presents are we delivering? I'll be adjusting my rankings in order to help people win tomorrow. So I guess that's a Christmas Day present. Hopefully, we'll see. Good one. All right, let's see here. Constantino says, salutations, my boy. PPR, Thielen, Ford, Devontae, or Tajay, if no Pollard. If no Pollard, Tajay is the play. In the event in which Pollard is active, which I anticipate, Thielen would be the next best option. Thank you. Johnny38 says, start Matthew Stafford, CJ Stroud, or Bryce Young. As of right now, I'd go with Stafford out of the group. It'd be like Stafford 1, Bryce Young 2, Stroud 3. Brandon Green says, I got the Bengals defense against the Broncos. Could seem them balling out as they the playoff push. But available defenses are the Bucks, Bears, Giants, Saints, Jaguars, sticking with Bengals. I got to think about that one. I haven't even considered the Bengals defense as a potential play this week, to be honest. So I'd have to look into that. Blue Jay says, do you think the Vikings/Packers is a shootout? Think Kraft can ball out? I mean, look, the issue with the Packers offense, and it has kind of been conducted over the course of the last 2 years, is that we really don't know who the primary number one is going to be outside of their running backs. That has always been their number one priority. Outside of Josh Jacobs, I can't guarantee anybody finding consistent opportunity share and or production. Now, again, if Christian Watson ends up missing this week, it could give an advantage to Romeo Doubs and or Jaden Reed. But ultimately, if we're going to be in a situation where on any given week, Dontavion Wicks can score, or it'll be Dobbs one week, then Christian Watson the next week, Kraft the next week, Reed the next week. Every single week, it's a random, like, there's not really a clear number one. So as much as I'd like to be, to trust someone like Kraft, even in a potential shootout, it's tough. Earlier this season, when they took on the Vikings, Kraft had an incredible game. Now, if we can go back to those kind of days, then fantastic. That'd be, that would be a great pickup and play in our scenario. But ultimately, it is very difficult to predict who within that Packers offense will get the consistent target stream. Let's see here. Bam Bam says, damn, I picked up all the opposites. That's why. Okay, no problem, man. Let's see here. Akash Patel says, Mahomes or Richardson for my finals matchup. I lean towards Mahomes as of right now. 513 Rookie says, okay, that's fine. Gatling Gun says, happy holidays, Andrew. Standard scoring. Pick 2 between Hunt, Downs, Booty, Abdullah, or Johnny Smith. Johnny Smith has to play. Alongside of Johnny Smith, I'd probably play Hunt, to be honest. If Pacheco is going to continue to be the afterthought of that offense, it feels like Hunt could be really valuable, just like he similarly was earlier this season. Now, again, if you're a little bit sketched out about the scenario, you could pivot off, but ultimately in a standard scoring league where we need touchdowns to kind of make our week, I think that's probably the direction I go in. Frauden says, where are we guesstimating Steelers defensive rank? As of right now, I don't think I'm starting the Steelers defense. If I had to guess, probably like 16 out of the 32, probably like middle of the pack. Pavan says pick one of the PPR tight end, Hunter Henry, Schultz, Okonkwo, Andrews. In a PPR, I'd probably go Okonkwo there. Second would be like Andrews, then Schultz, then Henry. Thank you. Jocelyn says, hey, Andrew, thanks for all the help. Who would you rather have go with in Arizona's backfield? Pick 2. Look, the two of the back. Okay, so earlier today, James Conner practiced it at a limited capacity. There is a very good chance that he could potentially play on Saturday. But if you were potentially going to be in a situation in which James Conner did not play, the next man up would, I would assume, be Trey Benson. Now, if Trey Benson misses another consecutive week with his ankle injury, then at that point it would be Michael Carter, which is the running back who I ranked earlier today within the video. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as the week's practices progress and we keep the injuries monitored. As for your second question, it says pick 2, PPR, Zay, London, Jennings, Neighbors. As of right now, I'd probably go Zay and Neighbors. Let's see here. Justin S. sends in a question. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. It says in a full PPR championship week, pick 2, A.J. Brown, McLaurin, Neighbors. I'll go with A.J. Brown and McLaurin there, regardless of who's playing quarterback for the Eagles. Next question, pick 3, Gibbs, Jacobs, Brown, Cook, Aubrey. As of right now, my current rankings have Gibbs, Jacobs, and Brown as my top 3. Aubrey or Fairbairn. I'm okay going with Aubrey there. As for the final question, Chargers, Seattle, or Green Bay defense. As of right now, it would be the Chargers defense. Thank you. Appreciate it. Papa Bless says, also, if Benson is healthy, do I play him instead of Brian? Who's Brian? Brian Robinson? Is that who you're referring to? It says, also, would you start Tyreek or DJ Moore? Annoyed that I got to ask because how disappointing Reek has been. No, I understand it. As of right now, that's a question I got to... I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I'd probably have to go digging a little bit just to figure out what I want to do with Tyreek Hill. Because again, Jalen Waddle and whether his status is going to be active or inactive is certainly going to be a determining factor as to which way I want to go about it. But I don't mind the idea of playing DJ Moore of him. I'll tell you that much. It'll probably be relatively close in terms of the rankings by the time we get to tomorrow. But again, I haven't fully fleshed out wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, kicker, or defensive rankings. I've only kind of structured running back as of yet because again, it's only Tuesday. Usually I don't have to have everything ready by Wednesday, but it's going to be an interesting scenario. That's why, again, after today's live stream, tomorrow morning, which again, I'd say in the next 10 minutes is probably when we'll be closing out today's live stream. So next 10 more minutes, answer a couple more, and then we'll be gone. But tomorrow morning, I'll be back at 8 a.m. I will have all the information that you could possibly ask for. I'll have a confident nature regarding the situations going into this week. So as of right now, again, stick with me. I'm trying to be confident, but I have to be non-committal because I could very easily change the rankings come tomorrow morning. So keep that in mind. Thank you. Justin S. says, okay, so we took care of Justin's question. Papa Bless says, I sent 2 questions. Okay, Papa, let's see where your first one was. It says, I'm in a predicament. Is James Conner and not knowing his status, okay, Also, I just watched a video and I didn't know both of their tackles are on the IR. Yeah, that was announced earlier today. If Connor is active, do I keep him or start Brian Robinson? In the event in which Connor's active, I'd still play him, but he's got to have a full practice before Saturday's game. In the event in which he doesn't get a full practice for Saturday's game, I think I'd be a little bit sketched out, and at that point, I'd probably just play Brian Robinson at that point. Thank you. Brandon Green says Ramondre or Thielen, full PPR. I'd rather play Thielen there. Ron Smith says in a full PPR, Dowdle, Watson, or Odunze. I don't even know what Christian Watson's status is. Odunze is a little bit sketchy. I'd probably just lean towards Dowdle there. JPatch51 says, would you go with a beat-up Connor or Brian Robinson? As of right now, I'd rather go with the Brian Robinson there. Schultz or Kincaid? I'd rather have Schultz. Thank you. Daniel Cap says, Andrew, who to flex, Terry McLaurin or McBride? I'd rather have Terry McLaurin in my lineup. I have Bowers at tight end. Yep, I totally understand the difficulty of said question, but Terry McLaurin is the preferred. Diego says start or sit Pickens, Devontae Smith. I'd rather start Pickens. Thank you. Let's see here. Jared W says Richardson or Murray. I can go back on forth in that, but I'll take Richardson for as of right now, and I'll probably have the same thing tomorrow morning. 513 rookie. The reason why I say tomorrow morning is because when the live stream starts tomorrow, it's going to be like a Sunday live stream. If you guys are familiar, for those of you who swing on by on 7 a.m.s on a Sunday morning, I have rankings on screen to the right of me that filter. So I'll have my top 36 running backs, wide receivers, top 16 quarterbacks, tight ends, top 12 kickers and defenses on screen tomorrow morning. So that's why I keep referencing, like, I'll have everything established and set on screen tomorrow. That's why I'm referring to it that way. So again, if you want to just get an update before tomorrow's game, swing on by anytime between 8 to 10 a.m. tomorrow morning PST, and I'll have those ready to go. Barry Volk says, Charbonnet in place of Connor, ? Thanks for, yeah, I would absolutely play Charbonnet regardless of Connor's status. Thank you. Eight-game winning streak, huh, Daniel? That's crazy. Peace Dog says, Bigsby or Ridley in a full point, what does that say? PPFD? What is that? Point per first down? That's an interesting one. Okay, it's a point per first down, but is it a point per reception league? That's my question, Peace Dog. Because if it is, at that point, I'd go Ridley. If it's not, if it's like a half PPR standard with point per first down, at that point, I go with Bigsby. Carlos says, what is Carlos' question, though? I see 4-point TF. What is that? Anyway, Oskino says, Tyjae Spears a good play over Madison. Currently, I have Tyjae Spears ranked ahead of Madison. So, yes, I would agree. He says non-PPR. At that point, I would just play Tank Bigsby in a point per first down league where you get 0 points per reception. Bigsby would be the preferred piece, Dog. Thank you. All right, y'all. Again, if you have any more questions, type it in the live chat. I'm here to help. Of course, I hope you guys have a wonderful, happy holidays for the next coming days here. Hopefully, you guys have work off. You can relax. I do not have work off, but, is it really work when you enjoy doing, all this kind of jazz? I wouldn't categorize that as work. I mean, is it a struggle? Yes. But, hey, it's only a struggle when guys like Ramondre Stevenson end up scoring touchdowns when I don't expect them to, or when guys like, Jalen Hurts get a concussion and lose me the fantasy season. Again, stuff that's out of our control ultimately. Peace Talk says in a full point per receiving / rushing first downs and half point for passing. Understood. Got it. I'd play Tank Bigsby there. Rosa says Devontae Smith or Thielen. I'd play Thielen there. Thank you. All right. Jay Patch says Merry Christmas, Andrew. Good luck everyone tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, y'all. G Snyder, here we go. Says, am I crazy for playing Hollywood Brown in my championship? Other wide receiver options are Waddle, Coker, Elijah Moore, Wandell, and Booty. I understand. I could see the vision. I'm not playing Elijah Moore. I'm not playing Coker. I'm not going to really play Booty, to be honest. It's either Waddle or Wandell Robinson. I'd only play Wandell Robinson there in a full PPR. Otherwise, I would look towards Waddle, but consider it. Let me look at Jalen Waddle's status really quickly. Is there any information regarding his knee? I'd venture to say that Waddle doesn't play. So unless you're playing in a full PPR, that's the only time that I would play Wandell Robinson. If you're playing in a half or standard, I'm okay with a Hollywood Brown kind of risky play there. G Snyder. Anonymous says Gus or Spears. It depends. If there's no J.K. Dobbins this week, I'd rather play Gus. If there's no Tony Pollard this week, I'd rather play Spears. Thank you. Jocelyn says, did you hear about Rodgers possibly missing this week? Hall 2023 season performance coming up. I mean, If Tyrod Taylor's a quarterback, I think that the offense will be just as inefficient. That's what I'll say. Adam Amar, what's up? Says Dynasty in championship game, Miami, Colts, or Bills defense or Raiders. Okay, between those those four options, the order which I currently have it ranked is Miami 1, Colts 2, Bills 3, Raiders 4. Thank you. David Tendler says, full PPR, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson, Calvin Ridley. I'll take Keenan Allen there. Wallbang says Kyler Murray or Mahomes. I'd prefer Mahomes there. Chigoziem Okonkwo or Hawkinson. I'll take Chigoziem Okonkwo. Thank you. Let's see here. Math1 says Chigoziem Okonkwo or Ertz. I'll take Chigoziem. Thank you. And happy holidays to you as well. Hugh Banks says in a full PPR, pick 3 between Puka, CD, Terry, BTJ, London. Yeah, I'll take Puka, Terry, and I'll take BTJ. I don't want to deal with the potential injury risk of CD Lamb there. Thank you. Angel Montero says, honestly, was debating about starting Charbonnet over JT, but after today's rankings, listen, you have to play JT. Against the Giants, it's just too easy of a matchup. Red Sox 2240 says in a full PPR, start one between Brees, Pickens, Charbonnet, Garendo, Thielen. I would lean towards playing Charbonnet. Legitimately out of all of them. In the event in which you get to Thursday and there's a potential in which, let's say Kenneth Walker is active, which I doubt that's going to be the case, but let's say it happens, then at that point I'd pivot to playing Thielen there. Thank you. Kaluminati says Mark Andrews or Laporta this week. Thanks, Andrew. It depends on scoring format. If you're playing in a full PPR, I'll take Laporta. If you're playing in a half PPR standard, I'll take Mark Andrews. Thank you. Let's see here. John Joel 723 says Keenan, Kupp, or Tyreek. I got to think about that. Tomorrow morning, I'll for sure have the answer. Start Tank Bigsby or Pickens in a half PPR. That's an interesting one too. I got to think about these. These are some tough ones, man. Pickens, where do I want to put him? I'd probably play Pickens there, but it's a little bit sketchier, obviously, because of the wide receiver versus the running back role and the volume of opportunities that would theoretically be available to them. But yeah, that's a sketchy one. I don't know. A lot of these questions I'm still thinking about. Hugh says, I need 2 running backs between Charbonnet, Tajay, Dowdle, Amir Abdullah, Madison, Singletary. Yeah, of those available options, Hugh, I'd play Charbonnet and I'd play Tajay Spears very comfortably, assuming it's a full PPR scoring format. Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. I'll wait for the tomorrow. Yeah, I think that's as of right now, I don't know if I can confidently say, John, as to which way I go, because I'm thinking it's Tyreek Hill, because there's probably not going to be Jalen Waddle available. But Tyreek Hill's obviously been a little bit inconsistent. But at this point, then it also additionally matters whether or not the weather in Cleveland is going to be suitable for his kind of a performance. So again, I think I need more time on those. Saints, Colts, or Miami defense. Miami's number 1, Colts number 2. Saints not even relevant. Thank you. T.O. Sure says, any scenario where you would play Charbonnet or Breece Hall over Henry? I would not mind playing Charbonnet over Henry, but you would have to guarantee that Henry doesn't score a touchdown. Otherwise, I don't really want to take the risk with Breece Hall in that scenario. Bam Bam says Stevenson is the cause of my anxiety. Me too, brother. Join the club. Ford or Gus? I'd rather, as of right now, assuming J.K. Dobbins is not active, I'd rather have Gus against the New England defense. Excuse me. Gatling Gun says, thanks, Andrew. See you tomorrow morning. Thank you. Diego Gutierrez with the final question of the night says, Chigoziem Okonkwo or Schultz. It depends on scoring format. If we're talking about a full PPR, I'll take Chigoziem Okonkwo. In the event in which is a half PPR standard, give me Schultz. Next question. Ford, Dowdle, Tracy, Najee Harris, pick 2. Of those available, I would lean towards Tracy and Dowdle. In the event in which you wanted to avoid and just play, well, yeah, that's the way that I'd go about it. I don't think I don't want to get cute with it, to be honest. Okay, guys. That'll be where I call it. I appreciate y'all. I'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 8 a.m. PST. I'll answer questions. We'll have rankings available and all that kind of jazz. And then on Thursday, we'll be back with wide receiver rankings. Then after the Thursday night game, I'll be live streaming once again. Friday, quarterback tight end rankings, live streaming at 7 p.m. on that night. Then Saturday morning, 8 a.m. once again, 2-hour live stream with rankings on screen. Sunday morning, 7 a.m. live stream with rankings on screen. So that is the schedule for this week. Happy holidays. Enjoy the next 24 hours plus. Enjoy the time off. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. But until then, we're going to go ahead. We're going to cue the music. I hope you guys have a great night. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.